Hi guys, it's Kelly and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring some products from Trinity Stamps. I'm using the Celebration Cupcake, the candy jar, the Simply Sentimental Birthday. So this is actually kind of comical because this candy jar was a like a throwback that Trinity had originally released, and then due to popular demand it came back again. But I was part of their first year happy birthday blog hop, and that is when the candy was released. The candy jar was released, and I did a video at the time, and you guys, I made almost the exact same card. I mean, it's like a good comparison because like you can really see how far, I've come in whatever it's been, 6-7 years. But it is very funny that they're almost identical. So here, the candy jar has had some upgrades. So they have masks. That's what you see me using here. And they're cut like out of stencil material. I am adding a bit of repositionable adhesive on the back. And I'm using Tempo Mono Multi Glue, but you can also use like Pixie Spray. That works pretty well also. But Tempo Mono Multi Glue I have used for years and years when I was creating my own masks for one layer scenes. So when I originally set out to do this card, I did not intend to do a shaker, but I was making this card for one of my daughter's friends at daycare, and then you'll see little hands in a little bit. You'll see little tiny hands in a little bit where she came in to help me make my card. So with the masks, it's great because you don't have to cut your own. And then if you just put a little bit of repositionable adhesive on the back of them, then you have reusable masks that you can just reuse over and over again, which is great. So I did use that, and then I just treated them like regular masks. Like I used them as I stamped, and then I used the outside one for the candy jar to make sure all of my candy stayed inside my jar. And then I'm going to use also the stencils. So the candy jar now has stencils. So I'm going to use these as well. I am not a person who prefers to use stencils. I prefer to use markers, but I am also not a person who is so ignorant to understand that not everybody likes markers or not everybody's able to use them. So I think stencils are a great option, especially if you don't have as much dexterity, or maybe you don't have as much time to, sit down and like color an image like maybe I or someone else does. But the stencils are all on one sheet here. So basically I just used low tack tape to mask as I needed. And I used our little blender brushes. You guys know, if you watch my regular channel, that I love the Blending Buddies. They are my favorite. They are my favorite, and I bought so many of them. And I like the small ones as well. I think they work equally as great, putting down quite a bit of color. So I went through, I did all my stenciling, and this is sped up. Why is this sped up? Because as my husband affectionately says, it's not really affectionately, and it is 100% true, that I am always trying to fit 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag. And that's what this video is. It's 10 pounds of things in a 5-pound bag. So we have the stenciling, we have the coloring, we have the shaker bit, and then at the end, I'm also going to make my own 5x7 envelope from 8.5x11 cardstock. Because this candy jar fits the entirety of a A2 size card. But in order to put in anything else, which obviously you can see from my cupcake and my candies, I do want to put in other things. It does need to be a little bit bigger. So here I did intentionally leave this in. It also has shading for the candy jar, and you can see it works beautifully to add just a little bit of a shadow. And then you can also like add it to the other side if you're looking to add more than just a little bit of shading. One other thing that I did leave in here is like you can, of course, combine colors to make your suckers or your lollipops or whatever a little bit more interesting. Because I do like a lot of dimension, Once I did my stenciling, I did go back in. I didn't color over the entirety of the stenciling. I just went in with a little bit of a darker color and then added shading. Most of the time I did it kind of like to the left and right hand sides. For the like candy straws or the suckers, I did have to change how I did it just a little bit, maybe just adding it to one side, or with the swirly lollipop, I just traced kind of that one side around. But this is just going to help give them a little bit bolder color and also a little bit more dimension, which I am always a fan of. So plus, especially with the ones that we stamped all on top of each other that are masked, it really does do a lot to help them look like they're kind of jumbled up in there on top of each other, because we're adding shading where two things meet and where one thing lays on top of the other. And so because of that, it helps to make it look more dimensional. You could also totally skip the shaker bit, just do that, because remember, I told you I had no intention of making a shaker card. This is what my child wanted. And since it is her friend, I felt like I had to be like, okay, fine. So for the cupcakes, I colored all three of them the same. I'm only going to show you this one. I've colored this cupcake in other videos before. I know it is a little bit sped up. So if you're watching on YouTube, there is a little gear at the bottom of the screen. You can click that and change the speed. So if you'd like to watch it a little bit slower, you can just slow me down. I recommend you mute that if you choose that option. And then, so I added the shading for like vanilla frosting. And now for the cupcake wrapper, this one in particular, I am going to do like a purple that kind of fades into the pink. The other two I'm going to do with a blue and a yellow. Now, before we go on any further, if you were looking for a ton of fun inspiration, one of our design team members, Larissa, everybody gets just has points in their life where maybe things aren't going as smooth as you would like them to be. And so we just wanted to show her like a lot of love. And so I thought I was. So we each selected one of her cards, and she originally did the cake. I can't remember the name of it, but I did a video with that one too. I'll try to remember to link it. But anyway, so she did a card shaker, and I was like, oh, that'll be good, because now she wants to make it a shaker and it'll be like the other one. And so anywho, all of those inspirations are part of a Instagram hop that we did on Friday, and so they're still there if you'd like to go through there, and of course leave Larissa some love. So there's some more things in our bag that have to do with this video. Here I'm going through, I'm die cutting all of my parts out, and then in order to turn it into a shaker, like here, there's my little Jelly Bean's hands, because she's in here helping me move things around and figure out what we're doing or what we're not doing. And so she calls the sequins and gems and stuff glitters. That's what she calls them. And so she then informed me that she wanted to put the glitters on there. So there is a die. And when I did it in the original one, it was two separate ones, and so I had to kind of put them together. Now there is a die to make it a shaker, which is great. So in order to make this a shaker, I just had to cut that particular die out a bunch of times, and I think I cut it out like 5 or 6 times, and then I'll use the base piece to cut that out of acetate. Then remember the part that we already colored and stenciled and added all the dimension to? We got to cut that too, because that needs to be our top piece. With the acetate, I did end up having to run mine through twice. Honestly, that's pretty par for the course for me, is having to run them through twice. You can also put some like scrap cardstock behind them, and that helps like for the die to have something to kind of like bite into. Or going at a diagonal like you would with more intricate dies, that also helps as well. And then here, I just did, the first pass, and I chose like a half sheet of cardstock here. And then once I get this one through, Jelly Bean and I were both cranking the handle. So that's why it looks a little crazy. So anyway, so then I just cut out a bunch of those, and then here's where we're going to go in, and I'm going to die cut this one that we did all of the masking and stuff with. As you can see, my child is just throwing glitters at me, and that is because she kept trying to do things that were not conducive to us completing the card. And so as parenting goes, the fine art of distraction, I was like, hey, why don't you look through mommy's drawer over there with all the glitters and pull out the glitters that you would like to use. And so that's why you can see them just flying across the screen as if it's baseball season. And then here I did glue some of my die cut candies. I did glue them over top of the other ones just for like a little added extra dimension. And then I blended those into the background. And then for the rest of them, for the most part, they're just going to go right into our scene. Oh, and then of course we added shimmer. She added the shimmers because we have to do that in any of the like white gel pen accents you want to do. You got to do that before you seal it up. So I taped one of the cutouts in place just so I could get the center glued down perfectly where it was supposed to go. And then I was able to remove it. And then we're going to stack all of these together. This is going to create the width that we need for the shaker. So in addition, she also wanted her little girlfriend to be able to take the shaker off of the card and shake it, not shake it on the card, shake it by itself. So this is a fully functioning shaker on its own, and it will also be detachable. So here I use some dry adhesive in order to put the acetate on, lined that up, and then I will use some more dry adhesive to get the colored one, the very top layer of our candy jar, to stick to that as well. So we've covered a lot. We have covered a lot. Oh, so obviously we're gearing up, for the holiday this week. There's a lot of Black Friday sales that have already started. Keep an eye out for those. And on my own personal page, I do have a crafty sales page that I try to keep updated. I would just encourage you to shop whatever links that you can from the designers that you love, because that's a really easy way to support those people who are putting out content that you love. Here we are putting in the glitters, and you may notice that it is very full. It is overly full. See all these bags lined up at the bottom? This was all of the glitters that she wanted to put in there. And I reined her in, guys. I really did. But ultimately, I had to tell her that we had to, we could only do one more. And of course, so she picked the reflecting lilac, I think, which, by the way, those are on sale right now. Those are in all the reflecting gems, which I love so much, and I'm very sad they're going away. But I understand that, you have to make room for new things. I do understand that, but I'm sad to see them go. But anyway, they're all in the last call section. So they're, check those out. Here is where I went in after we sealed it up, because it wouldn't even shake. It was so full it would not even shake, that I just kind of opened one of the edges and then tapped some of it out. This is obviously after she left the room, because I could not get caught doing this, removing any of the things. I had to wait until I think she was maybe down for nap time. And then I put her purple gems back in, because I would definitely know she would notice if those were missing. And here is where I decided to go with the 5x7 card. P.S. The video that I made 6 years ago or whatever it was, also a 5x7 card. Now, why don't I make more 5x7 cards? I don't make more 5x7 cards because I don't have 5x7 envelopes. Not that I send my cards to a lot of places, but when I do, I want to be able to put them in an envelope, and I don't want to have to buy special envelopes. And here I found me doing rainbow in the background, no surprise. And the other one I did rainbow streamers. I'm pretty sure that those are actually still available as well. But now I have more card to fill up. So now I'm using the 2 pieces that I already have done to kind of fill out the scene in the background. I've done the ink blending. I just used whatever ink was left over on my blending buddies. And then I'm just going to color right over them. So I'm going to stamp them down right over that ink blending. I don't care. And then I'm going to color right over top of them. This will help them to be kind of more pushed to the background, but it will help fill out the scene, because the other thing that I have to keep in track of, right, is if she wants it to be removable, she wants the shaker bit to be able to come off, then the card still has to look okay once we take off the shaker part, right? Like, we can't just let it be crazy. So I did some spatters with just some clean water, and then I also did it with Perfect Pearls because shimmers are beautiful. And then I colored these up. I colored them up the same way that we saw the first one with the pink and purple. I did add a little bit of shadow underneath them. And then kind of laid out where I thought all of my things were going to go. For the sentiment, I originally cut out white words, black shadow, vellum shadow, because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And so I ended up using the vellum, but I ended up gluing the black to the white to give them a little bit more lift and just make them a little bit more, I don't know, just have a bit more weight to them, and I was really happy with the way that turned out. Here I'm doing Hooray, Birthday Hooray. You'll see later on that I add It's Your Birthday Hooray, and that makes a lot more sense. But anywho, treat it with your anti-static tool, stamp it down with a white pigment ink, and then heat set it with a white embossing powder. And then here's where I added my glue. I added the Tombow Mono Multi Glue to the back of the shaker, and then I set that aside to dry while I glued everything else. This design right here is what I'm putting together without the shaker bit. And that is so I don't have to, like, when it comes off, we're not worried about the way that it looks. You know what I'm saying, right? It's going to still look fine because I'm not going to overstuff while I'm talking to you, because we're designing the whole thing without the shaker, and then we'll add the shaker in as well. And then really, I mean, I glued everything down flat. The shaker obviously has lots of layers of cardstock, so that sticks out quite a bit, but I did not feel the need to, like, pop up anything else or, do any of that, because I didn't want them competing with each other. Like, when I was putting them in the envelope, I didn't want to be shuffling them around. I did add a little bit more, like, I blended my die cuts into each other. You know how I do. And then I added the shadows underneath the candies. If you want the candy to look like it's sitting directly on the surface, add the shadow right next to it. In the case of the sucker, I wanted the stick to look like it was kind of floating a little bit in the center there, because it's obviously touching at the edge of the sucker. And so there is a gap between my stick and its shadow, and that helps to lift it up to make it look like it is balancing on the actual lollipop end. And then here we're going to add our little shaker bit, and that fills out our whole scene. And then you see I can just take that off, put it back on. And I actually have to wait until I get my sentiment on, so that way everything has enough room. So then, this is so funny. I tell you guys all the time, like, I don't mail anything. So I was like, okay, we're just going to hand deliver this. I get this little girl's gift, which was a K-pop Demon Hunter shirt. And then I was like, we'll just take it over, to daycare, because her birthday was at the beginning of October. Do you remember when I told you that my daycare was closed for 3 weeks because they were on vacation and then her daughter was having a baby? So this poor child did not even get this card literally until last week. I'm not kidding you. Oh, Lord have mercy. So anyway, shimmers, white gel pen, you know how we roll. And then normally we would be done, but we're not, because I can't help myself, as my husband can attest to. So here is the envelope. This is an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock, because that's the other thing. I'm always like, I don't have 12 by 12 pieces of cardstock, but you don't need it. So we're going to score it on the short side at 2.25. And then I don't have, like, I'm just using my Spellbinders thing. So I'm going to score it again at 3.5. And then for the long sides, I'm going to score each side at 1/2 inch. I'm going to be honest with you, the first time I did it, I didn't do it correctly, so I did have to come back and do it again. And then you know me, I love a dry fit. I'm just double checking that me doing the scoring is correct. And you can see I've done the ink blending just like we did on the background with the ink blending and the Perfect Pearls. That's how I did the envelope. So now I'm going to reinforce these folds with my bone folder. And especially for the long, thinner ones on the sides, I do like to kind of fold it over a little bit with my hands first and then bring in the bone folder. I find if I just try to fold it over and start immediately with the bone folder, the paper is too thick and it does not like that. So now once I have that done, on the inside, like the middle two, I'm going to cut them on a diagonal. So I'm going to cut out towards the like the seam where they meet at an angle, and then on the top and the bottom, the outside flaps that are scored, we're going to trim those off to include that little triangle cut that we have left behind. So I will also I will link below to the video that I saw that taught me how to do this. Her video is so well done, very, very precise. So if you're having a hard time following this particular one, I totally get it. You won't hurt my feelings. She is a very talented artist. Please go watch her video as well. So then here, again, before I'm gluing anything, I'm double checking everything fits and folds, and it's so nice. I'm very grateful for her video because like I said, I don't want to have to go buy specific 5x7 envelopes every time I find myself where I want to make a 5x7 card because that fits better for my design. So kind of knowing this and having this in my back pocket, I think definitely makes it more likely that I would be willing to make a different sized card. So now here I'm going to fold the flaps in and then push the bottom up. I only put adhesive on that bottom portion because we don't want it like hanging over any of the edges. And then I just burnish that with my bone folder. And then there we have a beautiful 5x7 envelope. And then here's the card. And then we have our little shaker bits all shiny and stuff. And there's our envelope, and ta-da, it's done. But is it? No, it's not, because I can't stop myself. So after it was done, I realized that it didn't really feel balanced at the top. And also it didn't have enough shimmer. Not nearly enough for a little girl's birthday. And so I did the It's Your, I added that. It definitely felt much more balanced. And then I used this is more of the reflecting ones, but I'm not 100% sure which one it is. I'll have to look it up. And I will do so, and it'll be linked below. But then anywho, I added these honestly, very liberally. I added them all over around to kind of accent the sentiment. And that now the card is completed, and here we'll just this has been a cut, like I said, it was a day or so later, so you can still remove that. It's not ripping the paper below it. And then you can shake it around and then you can put it back on. One thing to note, the back is a little sticky still because of the glue. So just keep that in mind. Eventually, I think if you had it off for a long time and it was laying around the house and stuff, it would probably pick up some dirt and it probably wouldn't stick anymore. So just something to keep in mind. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.